r/AskReddit by Redmond Dtes. People who work in hotels etc. What's the worst thing you've seen in a room after someone has checked out? A blonde wig filled with poo, hidden on the top of the wardrobe. A dog massacred an entire hotel room, but the guests left 3 days before they were supposed to check out. 3 days into a week-long stay. To say massacred is putting it lightly. Linen torn and shredded, multiple piles of poop, pee stains, claws on the walls, the TV and lamps were on the ground, broken with glass all over the carpet floor. There were blood and poop stains on the towels. This was an elderly mother and her child and dog, and we ended up fining her $2,000 for the damages. I was on a business trip to Lansing, Michigan several years ago, maybe back in 2005 or so. I walked into my hotel room and a dark splotch on the wall caught my attention. It turned out to be black mold that crept into the bathroom ceiling. I stood under it for a moment, stunned by it. When I turned and looked at the bed, the comforter was covered in blood. The blood was dried and set in on the comforter. It looked like nobody had been in the hotel room since someone was murdered on the bed. This is what it looked like. I have no idea. Looking closer, there was dried blood on the carpet and splattered on the wall. I took my things and went back to the check-in desk and told them there was something very wrong. Told them about the mold and the dried blood everywhere. They told me they didn't have any other rooms and didn't seem concerned about the dried blood. Roomless, I was sitting there in their lobby at 10 PM not sure what to do since I had nowhere to stay. But that was a lot of blood. The longer I sat there, the longer I realized something was seriously very messed up. So I called the cops and reported it. The police showed up in minutes. They got access to the room. The desk staff glared at me as if I had committed some sort of terrible affront to decency the entire time. I was asked to give a statement, which I did. Having done my part, I was outside trying to find other hotels to call to check for availability. Call after call, booked hotel after booked hotel. A woman eventually walked over to me and started chatting me up. The short of it is that she was a sex worker and offered to take me in and show me a good time until the sun rises. I wound up going back to the airport and flying home after all of that. There was a larger lady in the room. When she checked out, she told the front desk she made a mess in the room and she apologized. I was housekeeping manager. When we went into the room, I've never seen so much crap in my life. It was on the bed, all over the floor, on the bathroom counter, all over the toilet, on the walls, and everywhere in the shower. Me and the housekeeper both start gagging so bad. She told me I could write her up if I wanted to, but she wasn't cleaning it. Ended up having to call one of those biohazard companies in. Other than that, a suicide, and just general nastiness, but never seen so much crap in my life. I don't work in a hotel, but someone close to me does. Someone wrapped up bed sheets and pillows and tied the phone cord around the neck and left behind a fake suicide note. They were charged $100 for the inconvenient scare, lol. Someone wrapped up the pillows and blankets to look like a body and left it in the bathtub at a hotel I worked at about 10 years back. Better that than the real thing, but still. Dicks. I've got a lot of hotel horror stories from the Warwick in Denver. But to stick to the threads question. This one guy had checked out super suddenly and it baffled us as he had paid for a week or so. The housekeeper went up there and immediately called me to come up to the room. We found several pounds of shrooms and whippet canisters. But more interesting was that this man had taken everything in the room and crafted a pyramid in the center of it straight to the roof. The only thing holding it together was pure tension. Anything that wasn't bolted down was in there. Pretty impressive, honestly. A dead guy. He was on the last little bit of life he had left. Turns out he had some horrible blood cancer or something and he decided to go on vacation. It was a standard wellness check as he hadn't checked out an hour after checkout time. The smell upon entering the room made the person with me vomit. I powered through. It looked like a murder scene. The white sheets completely red and brown and soaked all the way through. He died overnight by the looks of it. Had to completely renovate the room. Basically. Luckily no blood leaked to the floor below, but enough got on the floor to have happened. Edit. I've also had to escort naked drunk people to their room in the middle of the night, more than once. Edit 2. I should be a nurse side crush dealing with disgusting stuff. Not me, but my cousin is a general manager for a large hotel chain. He says suicide is more common than we realize. He thinks people choose to off themselves at a hotel so their family doesn't find them. Unfortunately, it's often the hotel maids who discover the bodies. I changed rooms at a hotel 30 years ago. Holiday job. We had one guy who had managed to bring 2 women back to his room for a threesome. Literally every inch of the bed linen had dried fanny batter, excrement and urine present. There was crap and piss all over the bathroom along with several used tampons. There were joints and cigarette butts literally everywhere. They tried their takeaway meal, fish and chips, really classy, into the carpet. Hotel guests are bloody animals. God, I used to work as a cleaner in a motel. This couple signed in probably in their 50s. Stayed there for 2 nights and on their way out, the woman looked super embarrassed and her face was all red. No one wanted to clean the room, scared of what they'd find, so I did it. God, there was cum all over the bed. Worst part, it was definitely fresh, like they did it and then left. Fesses floor to ceiling and a number of $10,000 bill bands. I still don't know how to make heads or tails of it. I had to strip rooms for a while at a hotel while the bistro was closed. The occasional condom was enough to gross me out. One guy was obviously shooting porn as all these costume boxes were all over the place. The most common thing were huge stacks of pizza boxes and 30 packs of cheap beer. Like up to the ceiling. Days worth of takeout containers, too. One other thing I've noticed is the amount of people that don't shut their TV off when leaving. Usually at full blast. I used to work in a pub in the south of England, United Kingdom, and above the pub was rooms for people to book. I arrived at work one day and one of the chefs who lived in one of the rooms above was complaining to my father, the head chef, about the couple who had been staying in the room next door to him. They had been having loud sex all night. The couple had recently checked out and the room needed to be cleaned. When going into the room, it was clear that this couple had some interesting kinks. There was cables ties on the bedposts, a bloody knife on the bed and a metal rod in the bathtub. They had also left a whip in the bathroom and condom wrappers littered across the bedroom floor. The sheets were soaked in a mix of blood and urine. Blood was splattered up the wall by the bed and there was also bloody marks in the bathtub. There was also vomit in a couple places. The cleaning team had to get rid of the bed sheets and the mattress because they could not be cleaned well enough. I think my bosses also had the carpet changed and the walls repainted. Either way, it was disturbing. Woman kept her pet sheep in the tub for a month. Had to replace everything, including sheetrock and subfloor. I was called from the hotel on New Year's Eve because some kids were running through the hotel naked and my night auditor didn't know what to do. I told him to tell them to stop and I would address the issue the next day because I was drunk and couldn't get there. The next day I walked through a room that was utterly destroyed. The toilet was broken in half because the keg was too heavy, so they moved it to the tub, which in turn broke because kegs are heavy. They loaded up the tub with ice, which also overheated our ice machine. There were drugs scattered throughout the entire room. Weed and coke were all over the coffee table, floor, sofa and bathroom counter. Pills and condoms were on the counters. The screen to the window was ripped as if someone was thrown out the window. The carpet was ripped up for some unknown reason. The bed had been pushed off the frame and was leaning against a half wall like some sort of mega pillow fort. The room smelled like an alcohol drug infused orgy. I'm sure there was a lot more that I didn't see, but as we were inspecting the room with the police officer, the kids who rented the room showed up and promptly took a 180 out the hotel and ran off. I called the number which was associated to the room and ended up talking to one of the kids' mother. She came down to the hotel and went through the room with me again. The look on her face after the officer and I explained the situation to her was more disappointment than anger. Disappointed that she missed it all. It was a very strange interaction. We ended up finding the card on file about $2,500 for damages. They called corporate, who gave them their money back because there wasn't enough evidence despite our photos and police report. The room took about 2 weeks to get back to normal. I ended up finding out from a traveling nurse who was staying with us that about 20 people were in the room. She had called the front desk multiple times to complain and at one point opened her door to say something only to see the room completely loaded with people. She said she's surprised that the smoke detectors didn't go off. One other thing I saw was a room where a man hid his dog. We couldn't enter the room if the do not disturb sign was up, but after the smell started to get bad we entered to find dog crap everywhere. Like, everywhere. The bed was soaked in piss. We had to remove everything. It was horrible. Oh, most weird things you can think of. Honestly, doesn't even matter if it's a cheap or luxurious hotel. We once found 20,000 euros laying around. Did you turn in the 5,000 euros you found? Giant used dildo. Oh yes. When I was a hotel receptionist, I had to call and inform a checked out customer that she had forgotten a rather personal item. I had a hard time keeping my face and voice straight. She sounded absolutely devastated. I used to be a receptionist in a nice 3-star hotel in London. We had a regular guest with a serious alcohol problem who pissed the bed at least once a week. He worked for a company we had a contract with, so couldn't really do anything with him. Just keep the same room for him during the weekdays and leave it as the last room for the weekends. During my time there we also had a guest crapping on the carpet and using the curtain to wipe. The funny thing about her that she booked a room for 3 nights and she left her surprise on the first night. We blocked her key, so she had to come down to the reception and talk to me. I called the hotel manager who had a private chat with her. Apparently she was shocked that we banged her and charging her for the cleaning. We also found a butt plug. Our policy was that we had to keep all the items guests left behind for 3 months. We made an exception and emailed the gentleman if he would like us to send it to him, or we should just throw it out. I think he did not reply. Diapers in the microwave. It felt like a big FU to my cleaning staff. They also tried calling asking if we could hold their groceries at the front desk so they could swing back for them. That's why I was initially in the room. It was totally trashed. I did not give them the food back. I got one. It's not super terrible like suicide or death, but it's funny now. I worked at a motel outside of a small town I live in when I was 16. I would work the room by starting with the bathroom to get the gross part done first. When I first walked in, I hit the switch that works the lamps and head straight to the bathroom. After 10 minutes of cleaning the bathroom, I walked out into the main room to find one of the stand-up lamps smoking. I ran over, unplugged and took it out of the room. The smell was horrendous. After it cooled off, I inspected it only to find that some numbskull had taken his used condom and slid it over the light bulb. The smell of burning latex and semen is something I can never get out of my head. People are gross. They had pissed in the sink, crap on the bed, and clogged the shower drain with pizza. They left the shower on overnight and by the time they had woken up, the room had been flooded with 2 inches of water. They left the thermostat at 90 degrees Fahrenheit and threw their trash on the balcony. Come on everyone. This is amateur hour. A dead body. Repeat guest had a heart attack in his sleep. His usual pattern was to leave at like 5 AM but not check out at the desk, so we go into the room to clean it expecting it to be unoccupied around checkout time. Cocaine, pills, vomit, general mess. A guest tried to commit suicide by overdose after spending all his money on a bender and a hooker. The hooker called 911 when she came back with some alcohol and found him. She gave them her name and a phone number to 911 and the EMT or police told me to call her, thinking it was his wife and because they could be freaking bothered to do it themselves. So I called the number thinking it was a woman named Mary and I was going to tell her which hospital to go to. It wasn't Mary, it was the man's actual wife. I was the one who broke the news to her that her husband attempted suicide and was going to hospital. Seriously, Supermac f***ed me up. Blood on the ceiling after a guest was rushed to a hospital or mental health inpatient program. They slit their wrist and then went to the lobby. Kangaroo piss and crap. I'm sure I've forgotten plenty and will continue updating if I remember some. Edit. Bullet hole in the window. One room had the evidence of sexual peeing. How do I know? 2 co-workers requested adjoining rooms. The adjoining doors were open, And the wetness was at the top of the bed and headboard instead of waist level. How did kangaroo crap get into a hotel room? Did two kangaroos wearing a trench coat check in posing as a human? About 2 years ago I worked for a mid-sized hotel in Germany. One day I was looking at a recently checked out room and found raw fish all over the carpet floor. Like the fish, about 5, was cut open and smeared all over the poor carpet. Stank like hell, and to this day I feel sorry for the people that had to clean it. Room was not given away for months. That's all folks. Thank you for watching. Have a nice evening.